Hey everybody, happy April Fool's Day. I hope you are having a great start to your brand new month. As you know, on the first of every month, we have a first update video. We try to keep you informed of what's going on in and through the life of our church, and that's exactly what you've clicked on today. This particular first update is going to be loaded with information. So hang on, because what we've done is we've taken the very best from our family meeting just a couple days ago. We've sliced it for time, and so now you can be up to date with many of the great things that are happening at First Baptist Cleveland. Check it out. Your perspective is awesome to me, and it's refreshing to me because you're looking at how God is blessing our church right now, and it ought to get us excited that we get to be a part of it. And so, Benny, talk to us a little bit, and Bart, I'd love for you to chime in as well, just to talk about where we're coming from in the financial world.
Glad to. You know, it's never hard to brag on God. Never had, and He has blessed this church so much. 2020 was the largest year of giving that we've ever had until 2021. 2021, we received over $8.5 million to the budget, $8.5 million. That's, there's nothing you can say. And keep in mind, we haven't passed a plate since 2020, I think maybe, February of 2020. So it's been over 2 years since we passed an offering plate. And yet, we still have, the largest year ever. We made budget. We had a surplus from over the budget, over $400,000 surplus. No ministry was cut. No ministry was pulled back. We were able to do everything we wanted to do the whole year. Generations, we had over $2 million given to generations in 2021. And, including the big give, year to date, we're over, almost $8 million, $7.7 million. Is that correct, Bart? That's right. And, it's just how the Lord blesses is just absolutely amazing. Jordan kept saying, well, you've got the easy part. You get to talk about how well the Lord has blessed us. And that is true. That is true. We look every week and every month at numbers, and it's just mind-blowing how the Lord has blessed. Jordan was talking about giving to missions. The church donated to missions in various capacities over $1.2 million last year. So,
that's awesome.
That is changing lives in itself. But it's just, I don't know what else I can say about it for last year, but it was just an amazing year, and we don't need to run past that.
Well, and I think a couple things. One funny one is we were in a meeting the other day, and we're off 2 back-to-back just unbelievable years, and how God continues to bless through your faithfulness. And someone said the other day, should we pass the plate? And I was like, no way. We're coming off 2 of the best years we ever had. So, no, it's just amazing how God continues to bless. And once again, thank you for your faithfulness. And I think the neat part about sitting in our seat is to be able to see how many times we've been able to spin off new ministries. And there's been new opportunities that come in front of us from missionaries around the world to be able to impact the kingdom. And it's been such a refreshing thing. A couple notes that we, just to give you guys, is number one is our total giving last year was up 9% over our previous high. So when you think about previous high in 2020, up almost 9% in the next year, it's 8.97%. That was one that was amazing. The second thing is we had 504 new givers last year. So that's 504 people gave money at FBC for the first time.
I'm going to brag on Bart's team here. As you think about a variance of over $400,000, and what Benny said is we didn't hold back on any ministry. But what we try to do, what we do is we practice, and we're practicing it right now, is with every ministry, the business office, Bart's team, meets with all the ministers every month to go over their budget, where they've been, where they are, and where they're going. So we're better stewards of the resources of the Lord. So we don't, if God is doing something great in a ministry, let's feed it, if you will. And because of that communication, the relationship that we've had the past several years, it's made it, you have a youth minister that has a youth camp budget Well, he's a minister. He's trying to reach kids and develop adults and minister to parents. He's not an accountant. And so we have the accounting office with Bart and his team meeting with our ministers to help them better steward the resources of the Lord. And that's why Benny can say, we've not cut back on ministry, but Bart can also say there's a $416,000 variance between the budget and giving to the good because we've been better stewards.
That's a great point, Jeff. And I think one neat thing is to be able to sit there with the stewardship team in January as our final numbers came in, and we're able to pray through and talk through what we're going to do with the $416,000 variance. And, that was a pretty exciting conversation. And ultimately, after a lot of prayer and conversation with the team, we've taken that $416,000 and essentially internally designated it into two funds, one being capital expenditure. So you can imagine we've been in this building now for 11, 12 years. So as that happens, making sure that we have the appropriate reserves when things happen, that we're able to pay for those. So that was one piece. And then the other part was doubling down in missions. So to be able to internally designate over $200,000 into a missions category, that was a pretty exciting thing for our team. God continues to bless here, and I think leading that into what's happened so far this year, you heard already we had a record year in 2020 giving-wise that was beaten 2021. Excited to tell you through the 20th of March, we are almost 2% ahead giving where we were last year. So just continues to provide, and I'm pretty excited about that. So, it's just from a financial standpoint, we, feel really good about it. I think that the deacons felt really good about it. Our stewardship team, we went through this multiple times, Benny, and just continue to look at opportunities of how do we become more efficient and make a kingdom impact.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that, for the last 40 years or so, as I've been a member of this church, we've always tried to keep the personnel budget under 55% of our total budget. And I think it's worth noting here that we are at 54%. And it's amazing that we can do that with the expansion of all the ministries and everything that we're doing. And we're still keeping it below 55%.
Yeah. And I want to brag on Pat and his leadership and the personnel people development team. I mean, they've done a great job of creating structure alongside us. They worked really hard last year on our employee handbook, and there's just some guidelines in there that have been just critical to get our team focused and really on the same page. And that's helped not only with our day-to-day operations, but also with our budgeting process. And you can speak to that if you want.
Well, we took a 20-year-old employee handbook and had to revise it and bring it up to today's standards. And our team, we meet every third Wednesday of each month, but there for a while we were meeting quite a bit more than that. But one thing we did do is we got a little help from the Alliance from Defending Freedom. They helped us with that, and then we have determined that we want to not let that get behind again, and we're going to revise it every year. So we just completed that. And I mentioned the Alliance for Defending Freedom. That we have a contract and a great relationship with them. That's a nonprofit, faith-based legal organization that protects religious freedoms, and it's freedoms that we hold dearly, not only as Christians but as a church. And a lot of churches are using this organization across the country, and we have a great relationship with them, and we're really proud of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Commons Project. Does everybody know that we have a Commons Project going on? We got a little construction happening. If you guys didn't know that, all right, talk about that real quick, because that's been an awesome experience, and we're working with some great people, and they're doing a great job.
Absolutely. So we are so excited to get the project kicked off. So we have American Constructors who are going to be planning on doing the next phase to our building project. So they're actually doing this for us. And John Armour is our superintendent here on site, and they have done a phenomenal job. And I think it wouldn't be right for me not to pause and thank our building grounds team. Mike chairs that, and our whole team there. Wayne Richardson has been really involved as well. But that group probably we've leaned leaned on them a lot over the last several months. We had them here Monday sitting in chairs over their lunch break looking at furniture for the commons area. So a lot of excitement happening there, but a couple neat things. I'll let Mike, I'd love for you to share with them, but it's really exciting that when we start hearing the words ahead of schedule. Any of you that are dealing with construction things right now, you know that's a pretty rare thing. But when we have those conversations that we're ahead of schedule, it's pretty exciting for us at this point.
Well, that's one of the things, Bart, in Jordan's word for the year more. God continues to do exceedingly and abundantly more in this Commons project. Almost never in my life, and I've been around building for more than 40 years with my dad and myself, but almost never in my life have I seen many projects that were ahead of schedule and a little bit under budget.
Yeah.
And so far, by the grace of God, we're ahead of schedule and a little bit under budget here. So praise the Lord. Where we are, you all, on the Commons project, we are hopeful that we will be through with the Commons project by mid-May. We were waiting, we thought, on some flooring and some tile and some other things for the walls and for the floor, and those were on back order, we were told. And now while we thought we were on back order, now they've come in. I think maybe this week, some of them. Yes. So we're at least back on schedule with those things. Next thing, the drop ceiling you all see out there, that's progressing. This week, and let me stop just while this is on my mind. Our building and grounds team, one of the things that, if you hang around with Bart, Jordan, and Jeff very much, folks, you're going to go pretty fast. And the expectation is going to be pretty high, and that's a good thing. But the building and grounds team, most all of them have another job. And the building and grounds team, I see Chris Wild sitting back there. Chris is on our building and grounds team. Ken Wallace, I don't know if Ken's here tonight or not. I saw Sharon. And then Carlana Gill is on the building and grounds team, and myself. But we meet regularly, and then also lately, since the Commons Project started, Wayne has been just an integral part of what we are doing. Wayne has come alongside Bart and the construction team from American and has been a huge help to us every day, Wayne Richardson. And so, but we met this week with the decorator folks and the chair folks, and all I needed to know was the chair comfortable. And Melanie asked me when we got home, well, what did it look like? And I said, well, I really don't know what it looked like, but it felt really good. So we're down to the chairs, and so that's always a really good point when you get in your building project, when you're starting to pick furniture. And so that's where we are on the Inside Commons project. So again, remember this, we're a little ahead of schedule time-wise, and we're a little under budget money-wise, so praise the Lord.
Hey, talk about the sport courts. That's another exciting thing that's coming up. You guys are about to see a little bit of dirt turning. You're going to see a couple of tractors out on the side for our student ministry. Remember, this room is ultimately going to be where our student ministry lives on Wednesdays and on Sundays. And right out these doors, there's going to be a little reception area, and then there's right now a nice lawn. The lawn is about to get torn up. And we're going to have a great facility for not only our students, for our church, for our community. This will be a place that you have access to if you want to come take on Pat and some pickleball. And so there's going to be a basketball court, a volleyball / pickleball court, a synthetic turf field out there so kids can go out there and tumble, and moms can go out there and grab a seat at the table and chairs under the trees and watch their kids play around. It's going to be a great facility. That's going to start hopefully at the beginning of April, that process, and won't take too long.
One of the other things, folks, on the sport, that's the youth sports courts project, but you see on the picture there what I'm calling the porch, where it comes right out of what is now the choir room. The porch area is also an area where you could have a stage to, if Jordan did want to preach a sermon from out there, or do a wedding or whatever. It's kind of a multi-purpose venue for us, for the church, but for the youth, for a band or whatever, coming right out of what's going to be their entrance. You also see, folks, the pavilion kind of right there in the center of the sports courts projects. The pavilion is another place where folks could do a wedding or that sort of thing. So it's really a neat multi-purpose area. The landscape architect who did the church and who's also done life care and lots of other things here in Cleveland, Lee University, That's our landscape architect who designed this. And so at the end of everything, it'll be a nice multi-purpose area, but I think it'll also be a really nice, beautiful area too, as far as just an addition for the church.
You may remember us talking about the schedule, the timeline for phase 2. Initially, pre-pandemic, we thought we're going to pull the trigger on phase 2. We're going to do everything at one time. This is going to be a 30-something million. We're going for it. And then pandemic happened, and steel went through the roof, and our steel cost goes from $3 million to $8 million. And we're like, hold on just a second. Let's reevaluate this. Let's be wise. Let's not rush. And so, we really spent a lot of time praying and consulting with experts around the world, not just building experts, but just wise people who've done these kind of things before, and really felt led to kind of pump the brakes a little bit on our timeline as far as how quickly we were going to move. But then the wisdom we received was to break phase 2 into a couple of different phases. We're currently in phase 2A, okay? And initially, this was going to be the very last thing that we did. We were going to do this last. We were going to do this last because we were going to build a new building and then make this part look like the new space. So instead, we figured out very quickly that it doesn't take any steel to paint walls and to add drop ceilings. So we decided to do this first because of economics and because of timeline and kind of work backwards. So we're currently in 2A. 2B is what's going to happen next. And when we start 2B, and you guys can talk about this if you want to, that's going to be primarily the entire expansion except for the worship center and a portion of the new commons expansion. And so why don't you explain 2B, and you'll probably make a lot more sense than I will.
So, yeah, that's great. And I know we covered this at the December family meeting. We spent quite a bit of time talking about it at that point. So if you could imagine the phase 2 section, we essentially cut it in half. So as Pastor said, the children, preschool, the majority of the commons will be part of the next phase. And we've labeled them phase 2A, which is commons, phase 2B, children, preschool, and commons, and phase 2C is the worship center. So that's our internal designation.
Let me say that I am encouraged, even though fuel prices have gone crazy and that kind of thing. I'm encouraged so far about what we're seeing and what we're being told about our Phase 2B project. So I'm encouraged that we will be able to move right from 2A to 2B. Now, we don't know the number yet, but based on some short-term information that we are getting, it looks really good. Let me also say this. By the grace of God, we got in on the financial piece to this puzzle last year at a time when rates were at a record low. So we have locked in our rate where we are, our interest rate, even though we haven't been drawing on it and haven't been doing anything with it. So our interest rate is sitting in a really good spot for us, even though I think rates, if you've been listening, rates are about to start easing up, and the Federal Reserve is saying rates are going to maybe bump 8 times this year. Well, we are fortunately, again, frankly, because Bart, Will, Jordan, and Jeff, our executive staff and finance team, got us locked in at a really, really good rate at a really, really good time.
Let's talk about a couple things other than money, all right? We have a lot of other things in the fire. Well, like Benny said, this has a million different things going, and one of those things is Camp Cherokee. I love the fact that, we're getting ready for camp season already. Chris Otis is doing a good job of preparing it. We've got the entire summer booked except for 1 week for Camp Cherokee right now. So if you guys know another church or ministry that wants to book camp, we have 1 week available, but it's awesome. Improvements are constantly happening out there. It's got a long way to go. Camp Cherokee has a long way to go, and we're praying that God would continue to give us fresh vision and also more resources so that we could double down and keep investing in camp so that we keep bringing in hundreds and thousands of kids every single year. Anything else for camp?
Well, and I would challenge you to be praying for camp right now. And not only for our camp, and as you mentioned, if you think about from mid-May to mid-August, is we have camps every single week. So, and all of them currently are booked as Jordan said, but 1. So, I encourage you right now to be praying for our kids that are going to go there. And I think, you talking about a guy that's fired up. I had the opportunity, as you mentioned earlier, to baptize 3 of my kids at Camp Cherokee last year. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome, right? So from a dad that not only is on staff at First Baptist Church, I'll tell you, I've got a new fire for Camp Cherokee, and I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen this year.
It's interesting when we talk about Camp Cherokee. I'm one of the guys who lived at Camp Cherokee, grew up there, went to Camp Cherokee the second year was there. Well, I hear that music again. It's really good. And so I was one of the guys who put up the tents when we had tents. And I remember when the first new cabins came in when I was an intern. And then we got the new, how many of y'all remember the new cabins? New cabins? Yeah, well, they're new in 1994, 93, 94. That's how new they are. And as long as the same thing as the shower house. And so basically, we've not completed any new things basically since the mid-90s. And so the camp needs a facelift big time. Big time. And you're talking to a guy who has spent a lot of time up there, digging trenches, putting in the electricity from one side to the other side, and all that. But you know what? It's exciting because we've got a plan of what God's going to do in the future at Camp Cherokee. No, we're not selling it. We don't really own it. We're renting it from the Forest Service, if you will. But with that, God's given us a plan in the future, and it's exciting what God has done at Camp Cherokee. I was called to ministry around up there, so I understand the importance of Camp Cherokee. And so with that, what God's going to do in the future at Camp Cherokee, it's pretty exciting.
Hey, let's brag on Beasley's team real quick. Hey, I don't know if you guys understand what happens behind the scenes at First Baptist Cleveland, but we have an incredible media communications team that makes everything work. They make everything work. And so, you know, and here's the thing, you know probably about 20% of what they do. The 80% is what I wish everybody could really understand what this team does on a day-to-day basis. Right now, they've got several projects going on. I'll tell you, they're working on a brand new website design. They're doing okay, there you go. See, when I say things, it doesn't just magically happen like that. There are people that make these things happen. But the website design, this is going to be coming out very soon. I don't know the date. It's going to be probably in the next couple of weeks. You'll go to firstbaptistcleveland.com or fbc.is, and you will find a brand new website design. It's going to be very functional. It's going to be very user-friendly. It was kind of hard to navigate our current website. You'd have to click about 5 or 6 times before you could find what you're actually looking for. And so we're working with a great team. In fact, it's one of the best web design firms in America right now. They did Chick-fil-A's website. They've done several Fortune 500 companies, and they took on First Baptist Cleveland. So here we go, and they've done a great job. Been a great team to work with. But Beasley and his team are kind of spearheading that effort. They're also doing things to try to help communicate better with our church. Here's the thing: we not only want to do more, we also recognize that we aren't up to speed on a few things. And one of those things that we recognize over the last 2 years is that we have to work harder to figure out how to communicate the message to everyone. Not everybody has the internet. Not everybody has a smartphone. Not everybody has a phone. So not everybody has a mailbox. And so people receive information differently. And so we're trying to figure out how we can be more effective in communicating the things that need to be communicated to not just one particular segment of the population, but everybody in our church and in our community, which is a really hard thing, by the way. When you have 7,000 members in your church and everyone receives information differently, it's hard to say, okay, how do we create a formula that distributes information to everyone? So thank you in advance for your patience with this process. His team is helping us do that. Bart and Jeff are helping us do that. You know, now they're on a Sunday morning tour. They're going to Sunday school classes and having these pop-up meetings where we're answering questions and they're giving information like you're hearing tonight. But all of that is an attempt to really meet our people at their point of receiving information. We have some new deacons. We had a great ordination service this past Sunday night. Our deacons had a chance to lay hands on these guys and pray over them. And so these 4 guys are top shelf guys, and they've been through a series of questions and interviews, and man, they have knocked it out of the park. And so it's awesome to see new guys coming onto that. We also have 4 new guys joining our Yoke Fellow program. Will you explain Yoke Fellows just for everybody who may be asking that question?
Back in 2018, when Jordan first came here, he went over with us kind of our deacon process and how we did that. Let me also just give you a number. At that time, we had about 32 deacons. And Jordan and Dr. E, just from their leadership and guidance on this, the decision was made we needed to increase the number of deacons because the number of members were increasing. And so what we did, we looked to see, well, we do have more than 7,000 members, so 32 deacons, which is kind of where we'd been for the last 20 or 30 years, wasn't going to get it. But rather than just come up with a number, we decided to say, well, we need really, really quality people. And the only way to do that is to go through a pretty strong vetting process. So Jordan, Dr. Easley, who is our staff liaison for the deacon body, and myself and T. Roy Jones and some other folks, we got together and discussed a yoke fellow program. And so now to become a deacon at First Baptist Church, you have to go through a yoke fellow program for 1 year. And it's sort of what we call a deacon in training program. You come to all the meetings, you go to all the serving events that we do, car wash, turkey giveaway, all sorts of things that we do through the course of the year now. So you're doing everything a deacon does. You're coming to all the meetings, and you're also yoked up with what I call a veteran deacon. So, for example, if Pat Inslee was a new deacon, Pat might be yoked up with me or something, and we spend the year together going out to lunch, hopefully once a month, and just answering questions about what deacons do and what deacons are supposed to do. Here's the good thing I will tell you. Since Jordan came, Jordan and Dr. Easley talked to T. Roy and I remember in the very beginning, said, there's nowhere in the Bible where the deacon process was ever meant to be a popularity contest by election. The deacon process is laid out very clearly, just like a set of bylaws for living is laid out very clearly in the Bible. And so we will follow the deacon qualifications from 1 Timothy as set out in the Bible. And so it's pretty simple. You can just read and see what the qualifications of a deacon are, and that's what we do. So just so you'll know, as a church body, we now have 46 deacons, and Chris has done an unbelievable good job of putting together our deacon handbook. The deacon handbook kind of outlines what our responsibilities are. The deacon handbook outlines that our visitation schedule. Chris has got us divided into deacon teams with team leaders. So I know my week is the first week and so on. And so every week there's a deacon on call, or every day. There's actually a deacon on call in our church, whether you know that or not. And there's a deacon team on call every week in this church now. And that's the way it's been really the last two or three years.
These guys, they've lived up to what 1 Timothy chapter 3 talks about, and they are servant leaders. That's what the word deacon means. It comes from diakonos. It's to be a servant leader in the church. It's someone who has proven themselves to be a servant within the body of believers. And that's what these guys do. And that's why it's such an honor to serve alongside them, because they take their job very seriously. These guys not only show up and greet at church, they're behind the scenes a lot of times. They're serving in our community with Mission 423. They're in jail ministry with Frank. They're delivering poinsettias to over 100 widows that are a member of our church. On any given day, we'll have 60 to 70 people in our church family that are in the hospital. These guys are on call. They're making phone calls. They're the front lines in many ways of our church family. And honestly, they go unnoticed way too often. Would you guys just put your hands together and thank our deacon ministry for serving the way they do? It's a pretty awesome thing. I'm going to wrap this thing up by just sharing a few things with you that you can also be praying about as a part of our church. One of them is our extended family ministry that's led by Michael Head. Michael, raise your hand so they can see you. You may have heard him preach. By the way, was it pretty cool to see 5 of our staff pastors preaching over the last couple of weeks? Wasn't that awesome? That's a pretty cool thing, and not to mention, another thing that goes unnoticed. My dad, he works with all of our staff pastors and does preaching workshops and theological power lunches. He's constantly pouring in. He's the professor on our staff, okay? And so he's pouring into these guys, and now that they've preached, now they're in this assessment period, and they're doing an evaluation and just talking about how we can get better. And he's been doing this with me my whole life. It hasn't worked a whole lot, but with these guys, man, it's really cool to see them coming alongside him, and just everybody just understands that that's an important thing, preaching the word of God, and we want to do our very best. And it's pretty cool that we have so many young guys on our team that really feel called to share the word of God. And that's what I was talking about. I was talking about extended family. Extended family is one of those things that reaches so far that it's really hard to wrap your mind around. We have people around the world. I mean, Michael has a group of 40 pastors in India that he's discipling right now that are leading underground churches in places where it's scary to be a Christian. I mean, we've got people in Pakistan that are part of a weekly Bible study. I don't know if you know this, but we have extended family Bible studies, I think 6 or 7 right now, that happen every single week, virtually online, where people will gather from every point on the globe to be a part of a Bible study, and those Bible studies are led by people in our church. And so extended family ministry, a couple of years ago, the pandemic led us to launch this thing. We would have never imagined that the reach would be what it is, and the lives that would be impacted would be at the number that they really are. But it's pretty cool to see that. Be praying about that, because we're always asking, Lord, how can we be maximized outside the walls of our church? And we believe that God's given us a pretty unique venue to do that through the internet. And so be praying for Michael's leadership and all of his volunteers. He's got about 40 volunteers that work in this ministry. They're on every Facebook chat. They're ones navigating chat, having conversations with people that ask questions about the church or the Lord. People send prayer requests in by the hundreds, and these are people that are navigating those requests and making sure our prayer team and prayer ministry is aware of those. And so there's a lot of coordination and communication that happens. So be praying for them as they continue that. Also be praying about TC Egypt. I wish I could take our entire church on a big jumbo plane to Alexandria, Egypt, so that you could see what's happening in this Muslim nation of Egypt. This is a place where several of you have been. We've taken several mission trips over there. We have boots on the ground, a brick and mortar facility where about 500 people are gathering every single week to hear about Jesus. And I'm talking about 80% of them are covered and Muslim and know if I convert to Christianity, my family can legally kill me and nobody will ever ask another question. And so these people are literally putting their life on the line to learn about Christ. And we're seeing God do some miracles in Egypt. And I'm just grateful that he's opened that door and allow us to be a part of that. Now, I know it's hard to wrap your mind, if you've never been there, it's hard to wrap your mind around it. It's hard to think, why are we doing things way over there when we could be doing them right here? Why are we spending money to go in Egypt when we could be doing that in Bradley County? And here's the truth. We are doing it here. And we are doing it in Bradley County. But the Great Commission doesn't stop at Jerusalem. We don't get to make up the rules. Jesus makes up the rules. And he said Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. And God's opened up doors at the ends of the earth. And if he opens up a door in Judea, our yes is on the table. If he opens up a door in Samaria, we have to live with our yes on the table. God blesses obedience. He doesn't bless disobedience. And that's why we want to live by faith and trust the Lord when he opens doors. He opened this one wide. We walk through it, and God's blessed it in unbelievable ways. We'll never reap those rewards here, but it's not about this. We live for a different kind of profit, and the profit is completely kingdom-based. And I'm just glad to be a part of a church that's mission-minded, thinking about the Great Commission, and willing to say yes when Jesus opens a door. Another one of those doors locally is in our jail ministry. Our intent was to open up 4 jails. Right now, we are only in 2, right? We've got 2 jail ministries that are working. We have teams going in every single week. In fact, we have a baptism service. I'm speaking in jail next week. We've got a couple inmates that want to be baptized. And so that's going to be cool. Pray for me. I'm going to go to jail and hopefully come out. And we're going to jail, but that's just another open door that God has allowed us to be a part of. And I'm just personally excited to be a part of it. And so we have 2 more jails that are waiting for us to come. And we're just trying to train and equip enough people. There's a big check-in training process before you can just show up in jail. And so if that's something that interests you, reach out to Frank Walker, who leads our local mission team. He would love to put you on that training pipeline and get you prepared to be a part of that ministry. I told you that was a lot of information. I bet you feel like you've been drinking water from a fire hydrant, and I get that. And believe it or not, this is only a portion of what we could be talking about today, because God is literally doing great things all over the place at First Baptist Cleveland. We've also got a great month of ministry coming this month, all throughout the month of April. For instance, dodgeball's happening for student ministry on April the 6th. And then you've got Easter weekend, starting with Good Friday. We have a Good Friday service right here, and then lunch afterwards. Saturday, we start our Easter celebration with 2 services at 4 and 6. In between those services, we have an Easter egg hunt in the backyard, and that's going to happen at 5:30. And then on Sunday morning, Easter celebrations are going to continue with our 3 normal hours at 8:15, 9:45, and 11:15. So make plans for your family to join our family and be a part of this Easter weekend that's going to be one to remember. But start now, pick up a yard sign, and you can also go to the website. You can find shareable information. You can invite people that you know to come with you this Easter. Invite them and just see what happens. And let me also encourage you ladies, hey, this is going to be a great month for you because the well is coming back on April the 24th. You'll want to be a part of the well. It's awesome every single time you gather together in this place. It's always a great time of encouragement and also a great time to meet new friends right here at First Baptist Cleveland. All these details are available online. Let me just encourage you to stay connected, to stay up to date, and to always be inviting people to join you as we gather for worship. Thank you for watching this first update. We'll see you right here next time.